So, put your microphone too. Hello, everybody. Today we are live on location at the Fort Worth Black Chamber of Commerce here in Fort Worth, Texas. I've been to Fort Worth twice. But we are with a special guest, a living legend in our own community. She is a retired Fort Worth ISD educator, a civil rights activist, amongst other things, and an author. And so we are going to be talking to the one and only Ms. Opal Lee. And her granddaughter, Dion Sims, is joining us as well.
Hello there.
So glad to have you here.
And I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be with you today. Just want to let you know that I appreciate your time first and foremost. And I appreciate you for helping set this up. And so this is the Love Notes podcast. And something you said that I'm going to come to a little later in the last interview that I watched.
Okay.
With Mr. Gales. But it fits so perfectly for the Love Notes podcast. And so we're going to come back to that. It's something that you have a slogan of yours, a saying of yours. So I want to visit that. But before we do that, before we get into everything, I want to start by talking about where you came from, how your story started. But before I get into your story, I want to ask you one question. What does freedom mean to you?
Oh, it means that everybody, regardless of nationality, that they are free to do what they deem necessary for living. And we aren't free yet. There's so many homeless people, people who are hungry, people without insurance, so many people in this is the richest country in the world. And I think there should be something about it. So I will keep on walking and talking, and maybe somebody will listen.
I know that's right. I know that's right. And I'm so glad you are. We need more of that. The fact that you're able to walk and talk and speak on freedom, you came from a time where that was not possible. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about coming from that era.
I'm 98 years old. This is my 99th year. And I was born in Marshall, Texas. Depression came. My father, he left for Fort Worth. He was doing the same for his family. Never quite got around to it. So my mom sold all the possessions she had and the livestock she had to get trained there for she, myself, and two brothers. And we ended up in Fort Worth, on the west side of Fort Worth, behind this huge building that was a medical library. And we were with friends who were in the servant corps. The gentleman had the responsibility of keeping the building up. He was the custodian. And so there were times when he let the children, he had two, and he let us go with him, and there were books. Oh, we'd be able to dust the shelves. I've never got over how many books there were, and I'm a lover of books.
Me too.
And we went to school in that neighborhood. When my parents found a place on the south side of town, then I went to James E. Gwynn School. elementary school, and from there to General High School. Finished up until when I was 16, and my mom had planned to send me back to Marshall to Wiley College. It's a university now, but I got married. Oh, she was so disappointed. She wouldn't even go to the wedding without she went to chapel. And so I was married 4 years and 4 babies before I realized I was gonna have to raise my husband too. I cut my losses.
Yeah.
Went home to my mother with these 4 babies. And had nerve enough to say, I'm ready to go to college now. She says, I've got no money to send you to nobody's college. And then she said, I'll give you Judy. I've worked, I don't know how many jobs to get to go to Wiley in the fall. And when I got there, they put me to work at the college bookstore. And I go back to Fort Worth on weekends. My mom kept the job I had, and I would work at weekends, and she couldn't check. Nobody knew the difference. Yeah. So I got through at Wiley in 3.5 years. I couldn't stay for it. Yeah. I had children at home. And I came back to Fort Worth and got a job teaching. 3rd grade, 8-year-olds. In fact, I taught them so long, I was beginning to act like them. So they gave me another position. I studied and I became the visiting teacher. And there were children who came to school hungry. I had to find food for them, or show their parents how to get to the food banks. Some without clothes, some even without a place to stay. So my work was never ending almost. I worked with them until I became a visiting teacher. And getting clothing, shoes, food, a place to stay, the children, the care. What I did as a visiting teacher, I ended up going to college. Yeah, we're back. We started a food bank.
Is that in answer as a response to the need of children?
Yes, it was. And there was this huge building behind my house that was up for sale. And I asked about it. And they leased it to us for $4,000 a month.
That's a lot.
$4,000. Well, do you know we paid that $4,000 for a year, and the month we didn't have it, the people who owned the building gave it to us. They said we were doing a good job in the neighborhood, and they gave us that building that was worth $1.3
million.
1.3 million. The building. Wow. $1.3 million. Wow. So people standing in line for food. polled them, and at least 66 of them said they'd be willing to farm.
Hmm.
So, here I go again. I asked the water district for land along the Trinity River, and they gave me the use of 13 acres.
Oh, wow.
We didn't have a water problem at all, and we ended up with the fellow who was over there. He was to die for. And he raised produce that he gave to the wheat grower and to the food bank, and then he would go to market with the rest of it. I tell you, I was a happy kid.
I can imagine. That's quite a journey so far because, life is a journey in general, but you overcame so many things. But what I took from that story thus far is that when you're walking in your purpose, when you're walking in the direction that God has planned for you, doors open up.
They do,
Mountains move,
they do.
and they moved for you.
And there's a God that we can't forget that He's the one who directs our path. And He did mine. I tell you, I worked through that food bank, and then I had, after the food bank, and then we had the farm. Yes. And did I tell you about the farm?
Yes, the farm, yes.
And then they gave us that facility.
Right.
We had a facility that was worth $1.3 million. And this is where we had our food bank, and people would stand in line, and I called, and 66 of them said they'd like to farm. So, going to the Trinity River Authority, and they gave us the use of 13 acres of land on the Trinity River.
And we named it Opal's Farm
Yes.
after
Farm.
Miss Opal. And we currently have 2 acres under cultivation.
Okay.
And we're producing about 20,000 pounds of fresh produce a year. Currently.
Wow.
And,
And that started in what year?
So we cut our ribbon in 2019. And so with it, we invite folks to come out and volunteer. Again, Greg Joel is our farm manager, and we have a great volunteer staff and part-time. We've had others to come and work and be employed with the farm. So the idea with talking to people when she asked them, why did they need the help of the food bank? A lot of the responses, like she said, 66. Were either previously incarcerated and unable to find work or sustainable work. And so she asked them would they farm. And that's what then again put how to help somebody. See, we joke that she's got this stamp on her forehead that says, if you need help, find Miss Opal. She'll help you, right? And so she's always thinking through how to help somebody find dignity in their life.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So if you were previously incarcerated, then you worked a Texas farm here in Texas.
Absolutely.
And so what we're working on is being able to bridge that gap so that their time served isn't time wasted, and giving them a degree inside of agriculture, something they know something about. So we're working with Charleston State University, who's our educational partner. And we've got, right now, we have a cohort that's allowing community growers to come. We started it in January, and they've got a 10 by 10 plot of land. So they go to school on Saturday morning, twice a month. And then they come and do practicum on the farm. Now you can't grow a farm in 2 days a month,
You cannot.
all right? But they have access to their plot of land all week.
Okay.
And so they till, they plant, and they're gonna be harvesting, and they're gonna have to take it, and taking it to market. Because what we figure is that, if people know what to do with the assets that they have. I mean, if you got a yard, cool. If you have, and you live in a neighborhood that's got vacant property, okay, utilize it. Because the one thing that the pandemic showed us is that if you knew how to work your land, you wouldn't starve. You might not have had meat, you might have been a vegetarian, but you wouldn't have starved. You wouldn't have starved. And so, but we're just hoping that we are enabling and empowering people to take and sustain themselves, because that's what freedom is about.
Yes.
All right, that is what freedom is really about, being able to have and to do on your own and for yourself. So, Opal's Farm is one of the legacy projects that we have from this Opal.
One of, and just for those watching, do they have to go through Charleston to be involved? What
No, well, we made the application probably, again, this is our first cohort, so after we'll review and analyze and figure out how to do it, but we're wanting to do it every spring, because the fall semester, the fall harvest is hotter here in Texas, and so we figure working a farm in Texas in the summer is hard. So we're going to do it every spring, the spring quarter. But we're going to evaluate after we finish this one. This one will end with Juneteenth. They'll get their certificate, their certification for having participated. It started in January.
Okay.
It started in January. And so, but we'll evaluate and open it up again. But it was open up to the public, and it was a free course. Tarleton paid for it all. And inside of it, one of the things that I was concerned is that people are going to, because we're on the banks of the Trinity, all right? And so access to water is, not a hard thing. But when they got home in their communities, I was like, well, if they're having to pay the water bill, then that's not going to be, conducive to them, being successful. So we partnered, of course, with Trinity Water, and they trained them how to make rain barrels.
Okay.
And so if you know how to capture that fresh water, cover it so it doesn't grow mosquitoes. But you can ask your neighbors, hey, can I build a rain barrel and you collect water for me, right? And so now they have water sources to help with their farm. So we're thinking through how to empower a community to be self-sustaining.
And that's the key.
It
is for our community, back to what you said about everyone being free. We're not all free into it. We're all free. And you said this is one of the facets of her legacy. Let's talk about another. There's a beautifully illustrated book in front of me titled Juneteenth, A Children's Story. Talk about this book. What inspired this?
Well, I don't know, except that when my parents, my mom, always read stories to us when we were children. And so I got the idea that when I'm around children, if I can read a story to them and they learn something from it. And so that's the outgrowth of the Juneteenth children's story. And so many children had never heard of Juneteenth. And I wanted to take it home to their parents, the story that I told them, and they did. And so Juneteenth for children has grown.
Yes.
And would you believe that the President of the United States, the President of the United States took his pen and made Juneteenth a national holiday.
He did.
And so you can celebrate Juneteenth all over these United States. And then Mexico has a Juneteenth, and there's Juneteenth in some other countries.
Wonderful. We thank you guys for that. I know that was a great effort on your part.
So we are self-published. So Unity Unlimited, a nonprofit, published Juneteenth, published her book. And so they can get it, of course, on the Amazons and the Barnes and Nobles, but if they got it from us, from her website is therealopallee.com, then they'll have a chance to order a signed copy, an autographed copy, and have that mailed to them. And you can't get that on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, but you can get it directly from her. But again, we self-published her book. This is the third iteration. And if there are anybody that has the very first one that doesn't have the special edition on it, that was the one that we had right before it became a holiday. And then that one came out in April of 2021. Then it became a law in June of 2021. So then we had to publish the special edition.
Add Joe to it.
And added that picture in. Yes.
That's wonderful. I'm an avid reader. I grew up as an avid reader. I love books so much. I went and volunteered at the library when I was in high school. So I would read to children as well.
Well, one of the things that's neat about my grandma is, and my dad still does it today, she told them as long as they were reading a book, they did not have to do chores. And so my dad kept a paperback in his pocket so that he would be found reading, so that he would not have to do chores. And so as an educator, that's another one of her legacy items is reading, making sure children have a love of reading for whatever reason.
Yes, that's funny that you said that. My mom told me a story that that's how she got out of chores. I'm telling on you, Mom, that she would, when everybody was cooking, that's when she didn't learn to cook. She didn't cook as well as her brothers and sisters because when it was that time, she would be doing homework.
Okay.
And she would be doing schoolwork, and that's how she got out of those chores, and by doing work. And so, which it paid off. She was able to go from Barbados and travel to England and become the nurse that she is today. She's retired as well, but there's parents make account of little let you get away with a little bit when you're
if you're
doing
studying,
the right thing.
if you're doing the right thing,
It's paid off. So we're glad that they let you slide on those chores. We wouldn't have Juneteenth, the children's story, if they didn't. And I want to make sure that every elementary school in Fort Worth ISD has a copy of this.
So Fort Worth ISD, because we're homegrown, did procure for each school library and each classroom to have one. So now the job is to get it in all the other school districts, not just here in Fort Worth, but across the country, because it is the goal of being able to have it as a resource in the classroom for the teachers and in other school libraries.
Absolutely.
But because we are self-published, we have to get on their vendor list. And we have to make entree into the various and dare we say, because of book bannings and things that are happening across the country, we need advocates to help us get her book into there.
I am here.
There you go.
I am one.
Okay.
And I will do my part to advocate for this book being in this. Yes, especially in this era of book banning, which brings me to my next question. With everything that's going on right now, and we're talking about students, and as a retired educator, what advice would you give to young people today?
That they're not to let book banning that they're hearing about, it's happening right under their nose, keep them from learning to read. It is extremely important that they learn to read it and to read anything they can get their hands on. Encourage their families to talk and see how the ban can be lifted. It's gonna take everybody in the community doing something about banning books. But the children are not to stop reading.
Why is it so important that they read?
There's absolutely nothing that we do that the children don't need to know how to read. And so teachers must encourage them. something as much as you can to read.
Yes,
Is oh so important
it is.
in everything we do. And the children need to know this. And the sooner they are taught, the better.
And what about
I think that even though we talk about young people and put the onus on them,
but
I'm going back to the parents, okay?
yes.
And the grandparents, because we've gotten kind of used to saying, well, they're gonna learn it in school, all right?
Right.
But now they're not teaching it in school. They're not teaching history in school. They're not teaching what happened. All right, can't talk about current events in school, but they can at home. They can at church. They can at grandma's house. So we have to make them put down their PDAs, their tablets and phones and things, and have some FaceTime.
Mhm.
All right, some conversation
Real
time.
face.
FaceTime, real
Yeah.
FaceTime. And hear the stories of their grandparents, hear the stories and the triumphs and the trials,
Yes.
so that they can understand that life's not always going to be easy, but you can overcome. We did persevere, we did make it, but everything wasn't all easy peasy, right? But that comes from having community. That comes from, talking and enveloping our young people and not just assuming they're going to get it as they grow up.
Right.
We grew up, and this puts on my minister's hat, right? We were made to do, right? We weren't asked, did we want to?
Wasn't a
You,
choice.
you, you weren't asked if you wanted to be in the Easter play. You weren't asked to be in the Easter patch. You were just there. And so today's parents are, and again, there's something for old school. And making your children do things that are going to help them be well-rounded individuals is still the parents' responsibility. So don't let them, no, I don't want to, but you'll let them go to football practice.
Right.
You put them in cheerleaders. And then there's this, when the youth are going on a thing, when they mess up, you don't take them out of that, but they can't go on a youth event. And they need as much of the Lord as they can get.
Absolutely.
So I'm just saying, we need to put back on the responsibility of the parent to make sure that the young people have that exposure
Yes.
to history, because they're not getting it in school.
They're not.
And what they are getting, is whitewashed. It's not accurate. It's not completely accurate. So they need to hear it from us.
Need to hear
Hear
it
it from family.
and again in books.
And
That's
books.
true.
And there's truth.
So
Yeah.
that's why we can't allow the banning of books. I mean, why ban them if there wasn't anything to hide?
There you
Number
go.
one. So I agree. We want to keep them reading. We want to make sure that they're tapping into the knowledge that books provide. And we want to make sure that they are, we as parents and guardians and the community are having conversations that spread the knowledge that they're missing, because they're not going to get it in the classroom, unfortunately. And as an educator, I can say that.
Because teachers, good teachers, Grandeur talked about teachers when she was coming up, right? She talked about teachers when she was coming up that made, and instilled in them. I mean, they used to dress up in suits and skirts.
Were you wearing a suit in class?
In
this 100-degree Texas heat?
But that was put in them by their teachers.
It was.
Right? So now teachers can't. I had great history teachers. They brought in supplemental things to teach us.
Yes.
And now they could lose their jobs.
Absolutely.
They could lose their jobs for telling the real stuff. Right. So again, we want them to be gainfully employed, so we're not asking them to do, but it's sad. It's a sad state,
It is. It is. With the climate that we're in, we're going to come back to the first thing that we talked about, freedom. And with today's climate, what do we need for everybody to be free in the sense that you believe freedom is? What do we miss?
We need a community.
Yes.
We need you to be my child's parent when I'm at work. Yes. We need the community to nurture our children, to see that they grow up to be strong young men and women, and that the gangs don't get them. We need to be a community who raises our children. And so that's going to include the church and all the organizations. We need to be aware that the children are a commodity that we need to address and see that they grow to be men and women that will be proud.
Absolutely. I feel like if there's a generation that's gonna bring about the change that we're needing, I feel like the children that are in schools right now are it. And I say that, and it might be, it might be contradictory to other people's thinking, but the reason why I say that is because the children today are fearless. They have very little fear, and spreading information, the proper information, teaching them the right way, finding young people that can catch the fire for the right thing. When you light those children on fire, they'll walk to the end. They're going to set some things on fire for that cause, and that's what we need. I feel that it's going to take to be able to turn. We're going to need, just like people are on fire for the Lord, we're going to need people that are on fire for freedom.
Yes, because if not, and especially if they understand that freedom to choose right from wrong, all right? And then once you know right from wrong, then do the right, even when you're the only one doing the right thing. You do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And a lot of times they are looking for affirmation, validation and affirmation. And so as we let them know that that was a good choice that you made, all right? And that was a good a thing that you did in helping someone. And instead of going, why'd you do that? Why'd you let them take advantage of? No, because my grandmother has said something on, we are a brother's keeper, which means I put myself out, to help somebody else because I can.
Yes.
And it's when we bring that community in and see that somebody needs me, or that I have something that can help somebody, and not let me be said my poor. You're not going to correct them. And they're out here doing everything because you won't correct them, but you won't let anybody else correct them.
Yes.
And so now that the teachers are, scared in school, principals are scared in school to correct children. Yes. And so they're running them up.
They are. I came from an era where I remember my grandfather passed away in Barbados, and so I traveled there, and I was shocked at the fact that the teachers were spanking. They brought the ruler out, and my cousin, he got the switch, in school, and I witnessed that, and I was like, whoa. So, that in itself will teach other kids to straighten up.
Just hey, I don't need that.
So yeah, we are missing that. We are missing that community. That is a community. That is a true community. That is what a village.
But you knew that it wasn't to their detriment. It wasn't to abuse them. It wasn't, but it was as a deterrent. Don't do that again. It's the same thing when you're raising babies. You told them, no, that's hot. Right. They learn that, and so they learn what to stay away from. But when we take away that pain for doing something wrong, then that fear of no consequence.
There you go.
Means I can do anything to get away with it.
There you go.
I can shoot somebody and still be elected.
And they believe that's what freedom is, but then you find out you have to do
exactly wrong. Right, because that's how you get the pipeline to prison.
Right. And that's another lack of freedom.
So it's another lack of freedom.
So making good choices is what we're trying to do.
Paramount.
Yes. Paramount. Well, I want to close with a saying that I heard you mention in the last interview. But before I close, I want to say thank you again. It's been an honor. I'm so grateful for your time.
I've enjoyed it. I have.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you as well for your time and all the work that you do in spreading this Opal story and making sure that everybody understands how important this holiday is. And I would love to get involved with getting this message out.
Well, and if you give me this point of privilege, is to invite your listeners,
Yes.
your followers, to join us on Opal's Walk for Freedom for
Absolutely.
Juneteenth. And if they can't make it to Fort Worth to walk with us here, they can walk virtually wherever they are.
Yes.
So if they go to opalswalk.com and register, with the registration, they get a t-shirt and a hashtag, our social media strategy, which asks them to go on their Facebooks, on their Instagram, and go live and walk with us 2.5 miles wherever they are and show us their 2.5. Because what we're wanting is for the nation to see the benefit and the unity that Juneteenth represents. And the freedom, it's not just a Texas thing. It's not just a Black thing. It's freedom for everybody. And so we're wanting them to join us. Again, go to opalswalk.com and walk with us on Juneteenth.
Absolutely. So you hear that 2.5 miles. You can get on your treadmill. You can go around in your neighborhood, set your watch.
There you go.
Show that 2.5 miles, whatever you have to do, and then share it on your social media. Is there a hashtag?
The hashtag is Opal's Walk for Freedom, and the website is opalswalk.com.
Opalswalk.com. I will definitely be walking. I'm here in Fort Worth, so I would look forward to seeing you guys there for Juneteenth. Yes, ma'am. I thank you again. I want you to leave us with your quote.
If people
can be taught to hate, they can be taught to love. And it's your responsibility to see that that happens, each one of you.
Amen. Amen. Thank you for joining us on Love Notes podcast. We thank you for being here, and we appreciate your time. If you can be taught to hate, you can be taught to love. Good. Good.
Home is the collective, unconditional.